Welcome to the Her Podcast with Kristin Sampson, offering a message of hope, encouragement, and reflection with special guests.
Welcome to the Her Podcast. I'm your host, and today we're excited to bring you a special episode featuring Caleb and Kristin Sampson. With over 20 years of ministry experience together, they'll share their journey, the lessons they've learned, and the moments that have shaped their faith. So, grab a cup of coffee and join us for this inspiring conversation.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. We got a special podcast with my husband, and we are going to tell you a little bit about our ministry and our life together. To start us off, just tell you just a little bit about ourselves really quick. We have 5 children, 20, 19, about to be 18, 11, and 8.5. And the older two are in the Army, National Guard. And so we're kind of been navigating that season in our life. And I've gone back to college and going to equip myself in ministry some more for women so I can help more women biblically and spiritually.
With some counseling.
With some counseling experience as well. And
I am the director of media marketing at Heritage Christian University, the director of the Ministry League network of podcasts, and part-time fill-in preacher work, and all the things.
All the things. And he goes and helps people set up their sound booths and
Tech work,
live streaming, all things live streaming related, and has been very helpful. He's been doing that for a long time, a very long time, 18, 19 years, 20 years, a long time, and self-taught. And he's just done a remarkable job. And he's the one who's got me into this whole podcast thing to help reach as many women as I can spiritually and encourage. So I'm very thankful for him. So we're going to dive in and get to know us a little bit more.
And ChatGPT is going to interview us today.
Hope you enjoy.
Awesome. Let's get started. First question. How did you both know you were called to ministry together?
Well, I'll let you go first on that one.
Well, called to ministry is kind of an interesting way to phrase that. Okay, so I grew up a preacher's kid and really didn't ever think I would end up in ministry whatsoever. Very shy, very reserved, and didn't really like interacting with people that much, but really was trained from early childhood on how to be a minister by my dad, who is an exceptional preacher and teacher and evangelist. And so grew up with him and went to school to get a business degree and a minor in Bible, and then realized later on, after being in management for a while, that ministry was really where my heart was. I liked helping people and liked teaching people. So that's how I ended up in ministry.
Well, I have loved ministry from early on, as long as I can remember, I guess. But I did not grow up as a preacher's kid. I grew up completely different with a totally different background than him. And but the church was so good to me that was my safe haven, was always being a part of all things church related. And so youth ministry was definitely being in the youth group. That's the word, youth group. That really helped me out a whole lot and gave me a place away from all the crazy. And so I fell in love with that. That was my happy place. And so for a short period of time, I thought, I'm going to be a nun. That's what I was going to do. I wanted to stay in the church. I want to live in the church. Didn't have to worry about anything. Didn't have to worry about what I wore. Thought that was like the perfect thing for me. And then later I realized that that's not my belief system. It's not the way the nuns believe. So realized that was not it. So but have always been helping as I got older with outreach and mission work, and just love helping other people, especially those who have a hard time and need help. And always just wanting to please people has been my call to ministry, I guess you could say, as far as that part goes. But just love it. And so when I met Caleb, which we'll dive in a little bit later, I just knew that that's what we were going to do, whether it was full time or on the side. I mean, that's just kind of big reasons why I fell in love with him. So, but yeah,
Stop.
so ministry has just always been a part of who I am, whether small or big. So, next question.
Got it. No problem. Here's the next question. What's been the biggest lesson you've learned in your 20 years of doing ministry together?
So back to me wanting to like please everybody, I realized that you can't. That has been my biggest life lesson, is that we all have our different perspectives. We all have our different wants and desires in life, and that you can't please everybody. And you can please some, maybe at some moments you can please a lot of people, but the hardest thing and the biggest thing that I've learned, so you cannot please everybody. What's yours?
To have thick skin.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you'll get criticism, and all it takes, you get 100 people telling you did a great job, and the one person that says, you should have changed this or done that or done this better, or maybe even criticize your family. Those things, it's easy to take personal, and what you have to learn, usually whoever is coming at you for whatever reason, they have something else going on in their own life that's a problem.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
Usually when those kind of things happen, if you can step back from it and say, I wonder why they're hurting, that they lashed out at me, that could be helpful. But that's probably the biggest thing over the years. If I could have had thicker skin and ignored criticism at times, that would be a big one.
Yeah. Next question.
Thanks for sharing that. Here's the next question. How do you navigate challenges in marriage while leading in ministry?
Navigating challenge in marriage. Well, in ministry. Okay, so I think that when you're in ministry, you're leaning on God. And I think that's the biggest thing that has helped Caleb and I, is when we've gone through different challenges, because you do. That's just part of marriage, just part of being working and living with other people. That leaning on God and realizing that He's not going to be perfect. I'm not perfect. We're both going to stink sometimes. What is our purpose? Like, what are we supposed to learn from the situation? Calm down, cool down. Realize that we both are going to make mistakes, some more than others at times, and some cut a little bit deeper than others. But to realize that it's not coming from a place deep in our hearts, that it's coming from a place of stress. It's coming from a place of uncertainty, from a negative space, I feel like. And so when you realize that, it's easier to stop and think, okay, he's upset. Yeah, he's angry. Yeah, I'm upset. Yeah, I'm angry. But we don't need to blow it crazy out of proportion, and being able to bring it back and putting it into God's hands and praying with each other. And I love it when we pray together, when He prays with me and for me, and it helps and makes a big difference. When we so far for the last 23 years, like, we've never both been extremely angry at the exact same time. I don't remember. We've both been angry, but there's always...
Your memory's not the best.
It's not, and we're going to keep it that way. But I feel like one of us always is easier for one of us to bring it back. And like, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, neither one of us like to say we're sorry, but we both are willing to do it and admit it. One of us might have a harder time than the other. We won't say who, but I'm just gonna have to say it more than you do. So usually I have to say it more. It's okay. Anyways, we're gonna edit this part out, right?
Nope, that's going. That's
going
in
highlights. Okay, so all right, yours. What do you feel like is your biggest?
What was the question again?
Dealing with our marriage and ministry in hard times.
It can be really challenging in ministry. If you feel like your marriage is not perfect, to get up in front of other people and tell them how their marriages should be.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge, because a lot of people have the perception that the preacher and his family should be perfect, or the elders in their families should be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I think you even came to our marriage with that concept that
I did.
That the minister would be perfect. So if I became a minister, somehow I was.
Who's going to be perfect? Well, I was wrong.
Anyway, so that is a challenge from a minister's perspective, of trying to get up and tell people, if we had a bad morning, and then I've got a sermon on how to be a good wife or a good husband. And it's also, it's easy to use verses as weapons sometimes.
Especially when you remember them.
And, stuff like that, I guess, is a challenge. I had a really, really good example of parents that claim they've never had an argument, and I've never really seen them have an argument. They've had a few disagreements, but I kind of grew up with a fairy tale concept of what marriage would be, and so yeah.
Yeah, I'm no Liz. All right, next question.
Thanks for sharing that. Next question. What advice would you give to couples balancing marriage, family, and ministry?
How to balance marriage, family, and ministry. Well, number one, put God first in all that you do. But within stepping back then and looking at family and ministry, definitely put your family first, because that's your first ministry, is being a good wife, being a good mother, being a good spouse, being there, a good example to them as God has called you to be, and whatever role or position that you're in. And when you do that, then you're going to be able to help other people as well, because then you're better at home, or better with your situation with your family. Not perfect, but better. And then you can go and do ministry, and then bring your family with you. If you are married and you have children, bring them with you. If you're married, bring them with you. Because what better way to teach and to show how to minister and how to be a Christian is by example, and letting them see that. Of course, there will be some situations that you can't bring little kids to, but to let them know, be open with them and say, hey, mom and dad have got to go help these people and we need to pray for them. Or, write them a card. Like, there's just so many different ways you can pull your family in to your ministry, but definitely take time for your family, because if you're always out ministering to everybody else and not ministering to your family's going to suffer, because they're not getting what they need. They're not getting ministered to you. So that's my biggest thing is, sitting down and coming up with that balance that's going to work for you and your family. And that's different for each person. So, but definitely God first, family, and then others.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
That's recorded.
Next question.
Great advice. Next question. What's one moment in ministry that deeply impacted you both?
The first thing that comes to my mind is we were going through some crazy times, and we were going to a gospel meeting. Caleb was speaking at this gospel meeting in Alabama, and we had these other ministers who kind of knew what was going on, came from all different areas.
It was a very stressful time in ministry.
It was a very stressful time in ministry, and very hard time. It's like a lot of things going on out of our control. And these men came from all different directions to come and support Caleb and our family. And we had no clue. No idea that these people were coming. Honestly, I didn't even know that they knew, like it was even on their radar. But anyway, so we come up and we show up to this congregation.
Everybody knows when I preach at a gospel meeting.
Oh, who doesn't? My bad. And so we get there, and I had never seen such a big, beautiful 24 dozen roses.
No, not 24 dozen.
24 roses. 2 dozen.
2 dozen.
2 dozen roses. 24 roses. massive, beautiful for me. I mean, Caleb's bought me flowers and I love them and they've all been gorgeous, but nothing compared to that. I mean, that was intense, and for me and then at a congregation that I've never been to before. And it meant so much to me that somebody had pre-planned and thought ahead of time and to come out of their way and then hear these men show up from all these different places to come and support our family and be there for us and pray with us and to encourage our family, to remind us whose we are and who we are. And that just really touched me to this day. These men are still part of our lives and are just really good men to have in our corner, for sure.
Yep. I would say that's one of mine as well. Baptizing our kids would be pretty big on the list, but
4 out of 5.
Yeah, 4 out of 5 so far.
We've been blessed.
And that same trip, we went on down afterwards with some free hotel points and stayed at a hotel, and our stay was upgraded to the penthouse suite.
It was
fantastic. And we still to this day don't know if an individual did that or if it was just something in their system, or if it was just God or what it was, but
it was definitely a blessing.
Yeah, we got upgraded to a really neat weekend with the kids, and
it was well needed.
A good memory.
Absolutely.
Those are some incredible moments. Now for a fun one. What was your first impression of each other when you met?
Okay, this is kind of one of my favorites. First impression of Caleb was I really loved his pajama pants. So we're at York College.
Okay.
In college.
Preface this. In college, everybody wore flannel pajama pants.
It gets better. So we're all getting ready to load up on these buses or vans to go to, we're in York and we're going down to Free to the lectureships. And we're all getting on and I'm like, man, he's got some good pants. And why, I don't know, but I did. I love clothes. Still love clothes. Anyway, so then I go and see my family because my uncle was passing away with ALS at the time. And
disease.
Yeah. And he did the lectureships with Freed. And so when we met back.
It was the World Mission Workshop.
Okay, that's what I thought it was lectureships. Okay, World Mission Workshop at Freed. And so when we came back, we were all getting ready to get back on the buses, and he was with one of his friends, Mike Swears, and I remember waving at them and thinking, oh, I see somebody that I know at Freed.
Yeah, that's the only reason you waved, just because you knew me.
And he was cute. So I was getting his attention and seeing if he would acknowledge me, and he did. A little reluctantly, though. He wasn't like as excited to see me as I was.
It took me a minute to be like, I think I recognize her.
Yeah.
I was an upperclassman, so.
Yeah, he was. So, but yeah, so he kind of recognized me. And so then we're getting ready to get on the buses or the vans. And he realized that I was from Tennessee and his family was from Tennessee, his dad. And so we just started talking and hitting it off. And then so we ended up getting on the same van together and sitting beside each other. And I ended up falling asleep on his shoulder, which he tells people I slept on him the first time we met. So, but
facts are facts.
So, but no, I just thought he was an interesting guy, and I thought that was kind of neat to go all the way to Nebraska and to meet the guy with the cutest pajama pants I've ever seen. And
it sounds terrible.
It does. And get to know him, and he loved God just as much as I did and do, and I just kind of I just feel like we were meant to be together from that moment on. What'd you think of me the first time you saw me?
Crazy. And
Yes.
yeah.
Not what you find out later.
No, I guess I had seen you on campus before then, but that was the first when you waved at me. Like Mike was like, "Who's that girl?" And so it made me have to like pause and try to figure out who you were. And then you hit up a conversation while you were hitting on me. I think that's how it went. So yeah, but you were cute.
That was cute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of girls chasing me at the time, so.
I did. There was. I had to fight him, for him. I had to, I didn't fight you. I had to, put myself in his presence more so, and let people know that I am interested in him, that they could not have him. He was mine, even though he wasn't yet.
Little did you know.
No, I am very blessed. I am, and so are you.
Right.
So,
Right. That's the right answer.
next question. Oh, no, is that it? Is that all that one?
Do you want more?
No. Okay, next question.
Next question.
Those are great stories. Next question. What's a funny or embarrassing moment you've had while doing ministry?
Probably one of the funny moments would have been we took in a niece and nephew for a couple years, and he was about 4 and still wearing diapers, and he stripped in the middle of church service, stood up on the pew, and then tried to get away from you while I was preaching. That was entertaining.
And I had other children, so it wasn't like he was the only one, and nor was I able to get to him as easy because he was down a few kids. And so for me,
you had 3 of our own plus
and a
2
little
others.
baby. And so, yeah, it was all you could do is laugh at that moment and try not to want to crawl under the chair.
Another funny moment, I guess, I went to go baptize a guy, and the steps were covered in moss that were wet, and I got to the top step and slid all the way down like 6 stairs
in front of
into the
everybody.
water, and the water splashed and came over the side of the auditorium window. That was, everybody laughed, including me.
Baptism nobody will forget.
Nope, it might be on video somewhere too.
Oh. Next question.
Did you have?
I don't really. I think mine is the whole nephew thing. That's the first thing that pops to my mind too.
I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes over the years that people laughed at.
And I got another one too. So when the older 3 were the only 3 I had, Abigail had gotten she was like a baby, and she had gotten really sick, and Caleb's up there preaching, and Abigail has like gotten sick all in the pew, all over the floor, and that is embarrassing enough. And so I go back and I'm cleaning her off, trying to figure out what to do, and then I realize we rode together. He has the keys, and he's up there. The keys are in his pocket, up in front of everybody, and he maybe had been speaking maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So he's just getting good into that lesson. And, you don't want to interrupt, but you've got to, because you can't stay at the congregation with the mess and or anybody else sick. And so I had to try do the signals in the back and get his attention, and he just kept preaching. He could glance, but he was in the zone. So then I had to go around and go up to the side and let him know that I have a sick kid and I need the keys. And so he just kept preaching, gets out of his pocket, comes down the steps, hands me the keys while preaching. And I'm just like, how?
I was wearing a lapel mic, so
how
I could
is
just walk around.
Yeah, I was like, how is he keeping his focus? That is just crazy. But I'm embarrassed because people are looking at both of us trying to figure out what in the world's going on. But he did so well. I was like horrified by the whole situation, totally embarrassed. But it worked out. It's good. That was my moment. We survived.
We've had a lot of embarrassing moments, but those are the ones that stick out.
Yeah, we've had a lot of. Those are the good ones to tell. All right, next question.
Those are great stories. Next question. If you could go back 20 years and give yourselves one piece of advice, what would it be?
Go back 20 years. What would it be? That you can't be everything to everybody. Because going back to me wanting to be a people pleaser, I'm trying to wanting to please everybody and make everybody happy, and then realizing that 1, you can't do that, and 2, you can't, especially as a preacher's wife, you can't do it all. You can't be in charge of all. You can't lead it all for the women. That you're holding other people back from using their talents and being servants and being leaders. And that sometimes if those things don't happen because you're not doing it, that maybe we shouldn't be doing it even though somebody else isn't stepping up. And that was a hard lesson for me to learn. And it took many years for that. But a wise preacher's wife sat down with me and talked with me because I was just so overwhelmed. I felt like we were working with small congregations. We had started up some congregations, and me wanting to please everybody and get everybody involved, I wasn't equipped to know how to do that properly at the time. And so I was going in blinded thinking, I'll get it all started. I'll be in charge of it, which I loved and thrived on, but couldn't figure out why other people weren't stepping up and feeling like they should do more things. Well, I realized after talking with this sweet lady, Miss Pam Baggett from Dixon, she sat with me. She's just precious. And she was like, Kristin, you need to pick the thing that you love. Pick the thing that you're really good at and passionate about, and give that your 100%. And be okay with other things not happening. Be okay with other things falling, because you're going to make those things that you're good at great. And encourage other women. Go and talk to them personally and say, hey, you're really good at making meals and creating meal plans. Will you be in charge of our care team? Will you be, for our women? Like, there's so many different ways to do it that I've learned over the years, and that I wished I had known at the very beginning and not so much later. It definitely would have saved me a lot of headache and stress for sure. And hope, but since I did learn that, I'm hoping I've encouraged other women to find their talents and strengths as well. What about you? What would you tell yourself?
I'd probably spend more time with the family.
Yeah.
The challenge with ministry is it's 24/7, and you never, there's always more work to do. So there's never really a stopping point. I mean, there's the weekly things that you have to do, but there's always more that you could do. And we're both very growth oriented for churches. So we really push ourselves to try to get the church to grow and to progress while we're there. And, so being able to tell myself to hit the pause button at times would have been good. And I still struggle with that today, of when the balance should occur and when I'm working too much. So those are challenges. But I would say that's probably one of them that I would tell myself 20 years ago. Maybe get started in a ministry earlier if I could go back before 20 years ago. And not have messed around with other jobs for a while first. I wish that I had known that this was the path for me, even when I was in college. That would have been really good to help solidify even more connections. And that's one of the areas that I do pretty well in is getting to know people and making connections between other people. And this person needs to get to know this person. And so making those kind of things happen, those connections happen. But I wish I'd have known those things sooner.
Absolutely.
Great insights. Next question. What's one thing you've learned about each other that has strengthened your marriage?
Oh, one thing that I've learned about you that has strengthened our marriage is that you're very patient. That you, he puts up with me. I can be a handful sometimes, in a good way. I have a lot of, spunk and pep in my step.
Personalities.
Personalities. Yeah.
She does a lot of voices.
Bless. We're going to edit this part out, right? But no, he's very patient. And sometimes I want to fix something or speak on something or do something. And he's like, well, let's think about it. Let's pray about it.
Or choose somebody out.
Or if I feel like, well, I need to really tell so-and-so something, and he's like, no, you don't. No, you just need to pray about it. And so I'm thankful that he is like that, because I wish I was more like that. I know that's not the question, but I do wish I was more patient. And that's something I've definitely learned about you over the years, is how you, at first I thought it was like a weakness, though. I'm like, man, you need to jump on that. You need to say something. You need to hurry up with that, but no, that's, well, it's not really spiritual minded.
I'm going to watch this on replay a lot.
But
I'm hearing lots of good
things. Yeah. But he, his patience like that. Yeah. He has a lot of patience. That is for sure. A lot.
It's one thing about you.
I mean, if you want to name more than
Okay.
one, I think we got all night.
You're very personable and outgoing, and you would talk to anyone about anything.
But I wouldn't have been that way if it wasn't for you.
Yeah.
Because before we met and right after we met, until you went into ministry full time, like I would work with kids and I would talk to children all day long. I love kids. But to talk to another adult or to teach a ladies' Bible class or to pray in front of women, that was a no-go for me. Absolutely.
Yeah. You were shy in those ways.
But now I don't know a stranger. Okay, go ahead. Keep going.
Oh, yeah. So you don't know a stranger. You'll talk to anybody. You usually see a more positive side than I do on certain things. My dad calls that being a realist. Some people call it being a pessimist. I'm a recovering pessimist.
Okay. He's getting better. I'm working on him. Oh, bless.
I mean, you're obviously prettier than I am. So that's yeah, I'm not pretty.
Wait. That's still a compliment though, right?
Right.
All right, next question. I mean, you could go on, but we're ready for the next one. He's like, no, go more.
Those are some lovely insights. Next question. How do you keep your marriage strong and fun despite the demands of ministry?
Well, being able to laugh at each other sure does help.
Or laugh at ourselves.
And that one.
Yeah. Ministry can be fun, and that's one thing that I wish more young people knew about considering ministry as a career, is that it's not just standing up behind a podium on Sunday morning, especially as a minister's wife, obviously. But it's not just you got to wear a suit and tie and you're real stuffy and pious and, you don't have fun. You don't tell jokes. You don't go out and like play sports and laugh. And that's kind of the concept that a lot of people have, is that ministry is very boring and very rigid. And really it's not. It's a lot of fun. And, having other people over, doing fun events, especially at places like we worked at in youth ministry. Usually the youth group does a lot of fun stuff. And, playing games where people laugh. We like to do stuff like that. So both personally and we're both pretty competitive. I'm very competitive.
He's way more, but I mean, I do like to compete for sure. Yeah.
Nobody likes to lose.
Although your dad does.
He likes to bless other people by losing.
To make them happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so fun.
That's what a loser would say.
That's what all losers say. Yeah. But no, I mean, and just having God in the middle too. Like realizing that life is short and that we can come back and enjoy each other. And that, ministry is serious. It should be our number one, no matter what we do in life. That ministering to others is number one. But if you're not ministering to each other during the hard times and difficult times and showing others how to minister by your own walk, then it does make it challenging. But I think us both wanting to really be in heaven one day plays a huge part with how we deal with ministry in our marriage and our family. Because we both want to help each other get there, and we both want to be there.
Beautifully said. Next question. How has your faith grown over the years through ministry?
He's definitely showed up in so many big ways over the last 23 years. I mean, he has done that my whole life, though. He's definitely put the right people at the right place at the right time.
He is in God.
God. Yes, not him, but God. And it has definitely grown my faith, knowing that during those difficult times in our life and our marriage, in those, storms, because you all get those, and there's no perfect marriage, there's no perfect family. And so during those times, God has really blessed us. Sometimes not as fast as I wanted or the way I wanted, but I definitely have seen him step in. One particular way that really stands out in my mind to this day is, I don't remember the whole situation. I just remember we needing an X amount of money. And I remember praying distinctly, God, we really need this amount, like to the penny. And it was an odd, crazy number, but I wasn't asking for more. I wasn't asking for less. I was asking for this specific amount that we had needed. And within a week of that prayer, it came in 3 different ways. And it was just, and it all added up to that to that penny. And I remember after I gathered it all together and counted it, I remember just crying and realizing that this is all God. It came in random ways. Like one came and we had paid too much in like electric bill or some type of bill and they credited us, which was totally unheard of at that time. It was totally crazy. And then somebody else had sent some money for something else. And then I found some money in a pocket, which I'm sure that's happened to you too, to all of us at some point, leaving money in your pockets. And so adding that all together, it was just like totally a godsend for sure, especially that time, how quick and that amount. It just reminded me that no matter what, God cares. He might not enter it when and how you want it, but it just has reminded me that he does hear us. And my faith is just over the last 23 years has definitely gotten stronger every year. I mean, there's been some crazy times, but it's definitely gotten stronger.
Yeah, God's providence has been, it's easy to see in the hindsight.
Absolutely.
It's harder to see in the moment sometimes, although instances like that kind of help. But yeah, it can be something that now that we can look back on our ministry and life, we see how God was working through different paths.
Absolutely.
Thanks for sharing that. Next question. What's been the hardest season you've walked through, and how did you get through it together?
For me, my first thought, that was my hardest time that I really struggled with was being questioned by elders in a sense that made me feel like I would never be good enough. And during that time also, I was going through some major health issues to where
Had a miscarriage.
I had a miscarriage and having to be on bed rest. And I felt like we were all alone. We had no family. Our church wasn't stepping up at the time. The elders were not being there like I felt like elders should be at the time. And it really hurt me. It really made me reevaluate, who was I serving? Why am I worshiping God? Who are these people I've surrounded our family with? Why are we here? What's my purpose? If I can't be good enough, if I'm never going to be good in people's eyes, because again, back to wanting to be a people pleaser. And at that time, I felt like I couldn't please anybody. My body couldn't carry a baby. I just was going through so much and felt all alone. That was the closest I'd ever felt like leaving the church. Like, I was just like, what's the point? What's my purpose? And I was very hard. But having a husband who is patient and is grounded in his faith and leaned on God. I'm going to cry. And leaned on God and was there for me and held me and knew that he couldn't fix it. I mean, he couldn't change that I had a miscarriage. He couldn't change how those people were acting and reacting. All he could do was be there and pray. And so him having the patience he had, not wanting to go say the things I wanted him to say and handle it the way I wanted him to handle it, but for him to handle it in a godly manner and to keep us cool and to love me through my darkest time and not be judgmental, not run from me, not, all the negatives that could have happened. He could have left if he wanted to, but he didn't. He stood there with me and the kids and helped me big time through that. And yeah, that was one of the hardest times. Very hard.
Yeah, there's been different times when I've been burnt out in ministry. And those are hard times because you want to put your heart and soul into a congregation. And sometimes it's not as easy to delegate or to get other people involved if you feel like you can like get it done faster or like better yourself or whatever. So sometimes it's hard to get other people involved. Sometimes in congregations, you're just kind of on an island by yourself as far as trying to get the congregation to move forward. So where we've always kind of been driven by trying to help the congregation improve, a lot of people are resistant to change. They don't really probably realize that they're resistant to change, or what they say in an interview is not usually what they really, really want. A lot of congregations just want to maintain the status quo, so that you're at least baptizing as many people as pass away every year or something along those lines. So that's hard for me individually at times. Because I want the church to improve and be better, and I feel like it's a reflection on me if it's not growing and improving. And so those are difficult times when you just work so much and feel unappreciated or things like that. But we have to remember we're working for the Lord and not for man. So,
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that. Next question. What's the best piece of advice you've received about leadership and marriage?
Never go to bed angry. I know it seems so cliche. Everybody says that. You hear that so much. But it's true. There's something to that. There really is. And that doesn't mean like stay up all night and argue and fuss, but to pray together, to stop and take a breather and maybe get to like a calmer point and revisit the next morning. But definitely don't go to bed so angry at each other you can't stand each other.
yeah, that would be a good one. I guess best marriage advice. That probably the biggest one would be that most arguments start out of selfishness, and whether it be finances or whether it's something else, it usually has a root in selfishness. So those are things that kind of help. And yeah.
I realize that we all have different perspectives too, and so in wants and needs, and so realizing that too, I think helps as well.
And we agreed at the onset that we wouldn't consider divorce. So that's supposed to be off the table. And no matter how big the disagreement is or how stressed out we seem by situations, that we're gonna push through it eventually. It may be volatile in the moment, but we'll get through it.
Yep.
Great advice. Next question. How do you set boundaries to protect your marriage while serving others?
So the biggest thing in boundaries is that we actually have to have boundaries. A lot of people
and agree on what boundaries are.
Yeah, a lot of people don't get that, and especially in ministry, even that preachers and youth ministers don't set boundaries in place. Like, I'm not going to be alone with another woman. I'm not going to, even in counseling situations, to have the door open, to have a secretary nearby, or
have me in there with you, with the other one.
Have your spouse in there. To be honest, in most pastoral counseling type situations, having a minister's wife who is spiritually minded helps to relate to another woman and to deal with their specific circumstances. So those type of things, having rules on, like my phone is open to her at any point in time and vice versa.
And it's not that we don't trust each other, because we do, but to know that if I go and pick up his phone for something, he knows that there's going to probably be a chance I'll look at it for something, and he's not worried and he has nothing to hide. And he's not going to be mad that I'm looking at it because he's got nothing to hide, and vice versa. Like, I'll text all these different people and communicate things because I'm very social, and I'm perfectly fine with him looking at my phone and seeing all these conversations and us talking about him and telling him who all I'm talking to, and just being open with each other, being transparent. Yeah, with each other.
And usually if I have to message a woman about something, I'll tell her, oh, by the way, I had to text so-and-so about something. And so it just keeps the other person in the loop.
Yeah, it makes it feel like you're not trying to hide something. And I know some people might watch this and think, oh, well, then you don't trust them or you're trying to control them. But that's not how we view it. We view it as, I don't always know everything and he doesn't always know everything. But anything he finds out and goes back and looks at and reads, or anything that I bring up or anybody that I talk to, I know that the Lord has watched and heard everything, and I'm okay with what I've done. And I know it's not wrong or sinful. Therefore, I'm definitely okay with my husband, my best friend, knowing who I've talked to, what I've talked about. It just makes life so much less stress, too, when you can be open and transparent with your spouse about everything.
Yep.
That's great advice. Final question. What do you feel God is speaking to you in this season of life and ministry?
Well, we kind of took on a different role in this season.
Yes.
We've stepped away from formal ministry some and miss some aspects of formal ministry. But I took a job with Heritage Christian University as helping train other people to go into ministry. So it's kind of a bigger kingdom perspective rather than a local congregation. So that's been a change for us. Whereas we're not specifically a located work, and we fill in a lot of different congregations, so we visit around quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then the work that we do with Ministry League and teaching at various places.
Yeah, it's just a different role, and being okay with that, because I won't speak for you. I really struggled with going from the preacher's wife to not, and finding my spot, and finding my spot in a congregation with another church family, because they already have their preacher's wife, so that's obviously not it. And so finding, well, what is my role? How am I using my talents for the Lord? And so I worked and I've done some things, and now I'm more focused on the kids now in the season of life, and doing this more and hoping to reach as many women as I can to encourage them, because again, it goes back to I love encouraging and helping people. So this is my outlet now to help women and to teach women. I teach ladies Bible studies. I've written some curriculum. I'm just in a totally different direction now, and feel good about it. And I feel like we're just at the beginning of this new season, and Lord willing, I'm very excited to what the future is holding for us, because it is different, and it took time to get used to this new season. 2 out of 5 of my kids are not permanent residents at our home anymore and are in the military. And that was very hard. Very hard for me. I struggled with that, because you go from being mom all the time to wait, I'm still their mom, but they don't need me like they used to. And again, I want to help and please them and take care of them. And
they can't contact
yeah, and you don't get to see them and hear them all the time. And so that's been a challenge this season of ours. But having 2 younger kids and realizing, okay, I'm getting ready to have my 3rd one graduate next year. I'm only going to have 2 at home. But instead of taking that in a negative way, like I had been and struggling with, I'm taking it more in a positive way. I'm now helping and subbing in the schools and being a part of their lives, and just kind of learning and I'm going back to college, and so I can better equip myself in ministry. And so it's finding a new purpose in this season has been very interesting, and has caused me to grow. My mind has gotten bigger. I feel like learning, and but I'm thankful to have him by my side with this, though, because I definitely couldn't be doing what I'm doing and doing this podcast. This podcast would not be going on if it wasn't for him helping me and encouraging me and pushing me to do this. And so I'm very thankful, and for his talents, to be able that, you're self-taught. Like, you taught yourself back in 2009. No, I don't know. Back in the early 2000s, he started wanting to help other men to see the worship while they're overseas. And now we have children going to be overseas, and it's kind of like it's coming around full circle. It's kind of crazy to be on this side now instead of you in the pulpit, preacher's life. So definitely learning and growing in this for sure. And I think for the best too. So he gets to preach, and I still get to teach and help women. So it's definitely different, but definitely interesting, and we're excited about it. Nervous at first, but excited now.
Thank you both for sharing your journey and insights today. It was inspiring to hear how you navigate marriage, family, and ministry. Awesome. Thank you for tuning in to this special episode of the Her Podcast. We hope Caleb and Kristin's story has encouraged you, whether you're balancing marriage, family, or ministry. Remember, you're not alone in your journey. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who might need it. And don't forget to subscribe for more heartfelt conversations. Until next time, have hope, be encouraging, and reflect on your walk with God.
See you next time. Ta-da! You're amazing.
Gonna be a lot of editing.
Well, I just want to point out that I did not mess up. Only he did.